All right, good morning, friends, and welcome to another episode. In today's episode, we'll be looking at the difference between ionic bonds and covalent bonds. I remember in previous episodes, we looked at how these bonds were formed. And for ionic bonds, I remember we said that they are formed when there is the transfer of electrons from one atom to the other. So, an atom that has excess of electrons or an atom gives out its electrons to another atom that is in need. And they do this in order to be stable. Now, for covalent bonds, we said that they are formed when the atoms involved both need electrons. So, in this case, what happens is that those atoms involved donate these electrons and in the process form what you call electron pairs. After forming the electron pairs, they then share these electron pairs. So that was what we said about these two bonds and how they are formed. So let's start with their differences. So first, the first difference would be in how they are formed. So in the first difference, ionic bonds, we can say that they are formed by the transfer of electrons from one atom to another. Whilst in covalent bonds, they are formed by the sharing of electron pairs. Remember, these electron pairs are donated by the atoms involved. So that's the first difference between ionic bonds and covalent bonds. Let's look at the second difference between the two. So the second difference between the two, and I remember we touched on this whilst we were looking at how these bonds were formed. And that has to do with the nature of the atoms involved. Remember, we said that in ionic bond formation, usually the transfer of electrons is from metals, and those electrons are received by non-metals. So it involves metals and non-metals. So ionic bonds involve metals and non-metals, and the electron transfer is from the metals to the non-metals. In covalent bonds, however, the bond formation is between nonmetals, so it involves nonmetals. So you can have a covalent bond between chlorine and another chlorine, or between hydrogen and chlorine. That is a covalent bond. So let's look at the next difference between the two. Now, the next difference between the two has to do with the force that hold the atoms together. In ionic bonds, these forces are stronger. So they're actually stronger electrovalent forces. So the force of attraction between the atoms that hold or that are in the ionic bonds are stronger. Whilst in covalent bonds, the forces compared to those in ionic bonds are weaker. So you need to remember this. Now, if the force of attraction between the atoms within ionic bonds are stronger compared to covalent bonds, that would help us come up with another property, and that has to do with the melting point or even the boiling point, but we can touch on the melting point. So the melting point of ionic bonds or compound formed from ionic bonds are higher. Generally, they are higher. So ionic compounds have generally have higher melting points compared to covalent bonds. So here they will be lower. And it's because the forces of attraction in ionic bonds are stronger. So you need more heat to break those forces. That's why for them to melt, that's why ionic bonds have higher melting points compared to covalent bonds. And the same applies to boiling points. So here too, boiling points of ionic bonds are generally higher compared to covalent bonds. So this will be generally lower. So those are the other differences. Now let's look at another difference, and that has to do with the ability to conduct electricity. So when you look at the two, or when you compare the two, which of them is more likely a good conductor of electricity? So, and generally, ionic bonds or compound formed from ionic bonds are very good conductors of electricity as compared to those formed from covalent bonds. So, compounds formed from covalent bonds are usually bad conductors of electricity. So, that's another difference. We will look at the final difference, and that has to do with how soluble are they in water. So compounds formed from ionic bonds, are they soluble in water? And the answer is yes. So they are usually very soluble in water as compared to compound formed from covalent bonds. So they are usually insoluble in water. So these are the differences we can talk about, and I believe that will bring us to the end of today's lesson. Please remember these differences, and if you are confused about them, you can also refer to the summary sheets to help you better understand these differences. Take good care of yourself. Please share the video, subscribe if you've not already subscribed. And the good thing about subscriptions is that once you do that, the new videos are made. You would get that update. So please, those of you who have not subscribed to the channel, just do so. Share the videos, give me thumbs up. All right, take care of yourselves. We'll meet again in the next episode. Bye.